Hey everyone, and welcome back to the DMUS podcast, episode 6. I'm Dane,
And I'm Meg.
and this week we're exploring the strange disappearance of 21-year-old university student Maura Murray.
Yep, this is a really popular case on the internet, and I have spent the last 2 weeks researching it, so hopefully I've done it justice.
Hopefully we're in a good one. It's a bit of a long one, so hopefully you guys just have this playing on in the background while you're doing something.
Yeah, we're going to split it into 2 parts, and I'll put the links in the description box because...
Description and show notes.
Yeah, you can really go down a rabbit hole with this case, which I did, and it was pretty intense, so if you want all the details, then you'll have to look.
Let's get into it.
So, Maura's disappearance was one of the first and is still one of the most popular missing persons cases on the internet. One reason for this was Facebook had come out just days before Maura went missing, as well as online sleuths and armchair detectives getting involved, which is fine, and it's good that people are discussing these cases, but it's created a lot of misinformation out there on the internet. I've done a lot of research into this case over the last couple of weeks, and I'd highly recommend a podcast called Missing Maura Murray, where you can find heaps of in-depth information and discussion about this case.
Yeah, so if you guys are intrigued by what you're hearing from us, then definitely check that out if you want to know more.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's start with some background on Maura. Maura Murray was born on the 4th of May 1982 in Brockton, Massachusetts. She grew up in Hanson with her parents Fred and Laurie and her siblings, older brother Fred Jr., sisters Kathleen and Julie, and younger stepbrother Curtis. Her parents divorced when she was 6, but this didn't deter her from becoming an overachiever academically and athletically. She was top of her class at high school and played most sports like basketball, and was at the top state level in running and cross country. After high school, she decided to join her sister Julie at the United States Military Academy at West Point, which was a tough but prestigious school. She continued to excel in school and on the university's track and cross-country team. Although, in her second year, she decided the military wasn't for her, so she transferred to the University of Massachusetts in Amherst to do nursing.
She was close with her family, especially her dad Fred, who frequently visited her on campus. She met Billy Rausch at West Point and they started dating in 2001. After Maura left West Point, they began a long-distance relationship, and apparently they were talking about getting married before Maura's disappearance. And Maura had a tight group of friends from both university and high school. Her family describes her as talented in everything she did, and Billy's mum described Maura as fun-loving and that she loved life. Maura's friends describe her as very adventurous. One of her friends actually recalls a time in high school when she wanted to just go off and do something different. So she got on a train and went to Boston and then came back at the end of the day, and her friends were all trying to track her down. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind, that she has been known to kind of just want to get away and
I've got a little brother like
be independent.
Just like goes on holidays by himself, not with anyone.
Yeah.
Not my cup of tea, but there are people who just like
they
to
like
do
to be
that kind of thing.
by themselves.
Yeah, experience it.
Yeah. So it's important to note, I think, that according to Maura's roommate at West Point, it was widely known that she had bulimia. And also at West Point, she was dismissed because she had violated the code of conduct by stealing a small amount of makeup.
So I'm guessing you're not allowed makeup in like the military?
No, she stole it.
Oh, right.
I think
so
they
you
have
can have it, but you just,
I think they have shops there that for the military, and then she must have stole something from the shop. Then on November 3rd, 2003, Maura got into trouble for credit card fraud at University of Massachusetts, which is called UMass, so we'll just call it that from now on.
Yep.
It was improper use of a credit card under $250, and she said she found a credit card receipt in the bin with the card number on it, and actually Googled it, and you can, back in the day, they made like a carbon copy of your card when you scanned it, I think
right.
is how I interpreted it. So there was a time when the credit card number could be on a receipt.
Found,
Yeah. But she was only using it to order fast food to her dorm room. No one knows if she was buying food for just herself or for 2 people, but it did seem like a lot of food for one person. And keep in mind, she does have bulimia, so she could have been binge eating.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep. And also it's important to note that Maura's phone was actually a gift from Billy, so he would receive the bill, and in turn he could access the phone record. So that's how most of the final timeline is formed, through her phone records that his family had access to. So we know that it's pretty legit.
Now we're going to go through this information in the form of a timeline. So let's go back to Thursday, February 5th, 2004. As we go through this timeline, I've seen some variations, so just keep in mind that it may not be exact, but we've done our best to go through various sources to get this information. Thursday, February 5th, 2004. At 7:17 p.m, Maura talks to Billy on her phone for about 20 minutes while at work. She worked on campus, and at the time, she was the receptionist at the front desk of a dorm room. It was part of the security, checking IDs and signing people in as they came into the dorms. Apparently, she spoke to him 4 times between 7 and 10 p.m, although she wasn't supposed to be on her phone. We're not sure about what they spoke about. Now at 10:10 p.m, Maura speaks to her sister Kathleen on the phone for about half an hour. Kathleen later states that they were talking about her then husband. We're not sure if the series of calls were related. She said Maura didn't seem upset or sad.
Now we're in Friday, February 6, 2004, because I believe her shift finished around 2 a.m. Early Friday morning, around 12:07 a.m, Maura calls Billy, and the call lasts for 7 minutes. Around 1 a.m, later into Maura's shift, Karen, Maura's supervisor, states that someone told her she should go and check on Maura. She said Maura was staring out the window, not even looking or talking to Karen. Then when Karen asked what was wrong, Maura just said, "My sister," and began to cry. Karen described the whole encounter as awkward because Maura wouldn't say anything or talk to anyone, and usually she would.
Right.
So she seemed really upset, and Karen was pretty worried.
Yeah. Could it be because maybe her sister was having husband problems, marital problems?
Yeah, so that's what
She
a
was
lot of
upset.
people believe, because Karen says that she didn't see Maura on the phone, but she saw her phone next to her. So
Yeah.
she figured, or she just assumed that she had just been on the phone and then now she's upset.
Yeah.
But people tend to say, like, why would her sister's problems make her that upset?
I don't know, maybe she was really caring.
Yeah,
But
that's possible.
You just don't know.
Or maybe something was happening with Billy because she was calling Billy as
Yeah,
well.
that's true. But then she said my sister.
That's true, yeah. A lot of people debate whether she just said that just to kind of, you know, when you're upset and you don't want to talk to anyone and you
Just need like a scapegoat answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it could definitely have been her sister. But Karen said that Maura, she was just, you know, when you're upset and you're just somewhere else, you're not paying attention, you don't want to be there.
Yeah, you're just constantly thinking about something else, so you kind of switch off, go into autopilot.
Yeah, switched off, that's definitely a good word. So Maura wasn't really paying attention to people coming in and out of the dorm, which was a security risk. So Karen says, I'll take you back to your dorm room, which was nice of her, because she states later on that she was like that concerned about how upset she was that she walked her back to her dorm room to make sure she was okay. So they walk back to the dorm, and Maura doesn't say anything. And then also, Maura had 2 sisters, so we're not sure which sister she's referring to. Keep that in mind as well. But she takes her back to her dorm room, and she says, "I'm really worried about leaving you alone. Are you going to be okay?" And Maura says, "I have a roommate." But actually, she didn't have a roommate. She lived by herself. But
Right.
again, that could have just been like, I'm upset. I don't want to talk to
Yeah,
anyone.
just kind of
I'm fine,
leave me
leave me alone. And then Karen tells her manager how worried she is about Maura and that Maura went home because she was upset.
Yep.
So there's a few people that have kind of seen this and can corroborate it again, because a lot of people think that Karen's the only one that saw this, so she might be lying. But I think it's important to keep in mind just for the timeline.
Yep.
Around 12:20 a.m., a student, Patrick Bassi, was found having been hit by a car on campus. So there are various theories that Maura might have hit him by accident while she was on her break, and that's why she was so upset. And yes, she did have a dent in her car, but there is no evidence whatsoever that this is true. And he did survive, but he doesn't remember what happened. And this is just purely an online theory that people have put out there, and there's like no link between it all, but it just kind of fits together. But she was on the phone, and how could she have been in this accident?
I wonder, you just got to wonder, like, it's the middle of the night, where would she be going on her break?
Yeah, and like she was on the phone to Billy at 12:07 a.m. and then at 12:20 he was found. So I guess she could have hit him earlier in the night.
Yeah.
But that's just purely a theory that like the online sleuths have put together.
Yeah, so there's not
no evidence
against it
whatsoever that it's true, and I believe even Patrice says that he didn't think it was her.
Right.
But anyways, it's just something to note, and it's something that you'll see a lot of people talk about in connection with this case.
Yep.
She then makes a 2-minute call to Domino's Pizza at 3:40 a.m.
Probably getting some food.
Yeah, she was maybe just hungry. Obviously, she was upset, so sometimes when you're upset, you just want to eat some pizza.
And this is like, Domino's, I highly doubt had an app out there.
No.
To order, so you'd have to call them up.
Yeah, you'd have to call them up. And yeah, I've worked late before at various jobs, and I do I get hungry after you get home. Even if it's like 2 a.m, 1 a.m, yeah, I always wanted to eat dinner. And then that day, so we're still on Friday, February 6th, classes were cancelled because it was snowing. And there's no phone activity from Maura until 6:01 p.m. when she calls her voicemail. Then at 6:13 p.m. she received a call that lasted for 17 minutes, and we don't know who that was. Then at 10:02 p.m. Maura called Fort Sill in Oklahoma, where Billy was stationed, and they spoke for 10 minutes, it seems. But yeah, I don't think it's alarming that there was no phone activity. She seems like a bit of a night owl, as you'll see.
Yeah.
She's up during the night. It's probably because of her job. And then she seems to sleep in for most of the morning, and then, there's phone activity towards the afternoon and evening, and then she stays up late.
Yeah.
I think that's normal for a university student.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I suppose most of your time wouldn't be using the phone and be with other students, interacting with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's weird. But you see a lot of this in the timeline. She's up really late at night, and then you don't really see any activity until like the next afternoon.
Yeah, it's kind of hard if that's your shift work and you're staying up really late. You do tend to spend most of the next day sleeping.
Yeah,
trying to gather back the sleep you didn't get throughout the night. Now this brings us to the next day, Saturday, February 7th, 2004. So Fred drives to Amherst to visit Maura at UMass for the weekend around midday. Fred states that Maura's 1996 black Saturn was run down, and they were going to look for a new car for Maura. That was the main reason for his visit, and he usually went to see Maura once a month to hang out, which her friends said was a normal occurrence since they were so close. We think it's interesting to point out her car was only 7 years old, but maybe she didn't take care of it or get it properly serviced, which could cause it to run down.
Yeah.
Her family and friends did state that the car was run down, and they had given her a AAA long-distance towing membership because they were concerned. Although they didn't end up buying a car that weekend, Fred, Maura, and Maura's friend Kate all went to dinner that night at a local pub. Apparently, Kate says they didn't mention going car shopping at all, which some people find strange because normally when you're at dinner, you kind of tend to talk about your day.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I think I always
Yeah.
at least ask the person I'm with, like, well, what did you get up to today? But maybe it's possible that they didn't.
I guess so, but you'd also think,
But
like,
it is weird.
if they were going car shopping and they saw cars, they would talk a little bit more about the cars they saw,
Yeah.
her options, what she wanted to do next, you know,
Definitely.
what kind of car she's going to keep looking for. But
Mm.
anyway. But yeah, there's also no accounts from any car dealerships that they saw Fred and Maura. The only proof is at 4:13 p.m. When they called Reliance Auto.
Mm-hmm.
Now, apparently, after dinner, Fred took the girls to a liquor store because they were going to a party later. And it's not known if Fred waited in the car or if he went in with them, although Fred does tell police he went in because he told them to hurry up and pick something so they could get back to the dorm. But they say that Fred's story changes, so we're not sure.
Yeah.
Now, Maura calls Kate around 9 p.m. Fred is staying at a motel in Amherst, and Maura drops him off there because she takes his new car back to her dorm to go to this party.
Yeah, a lot of people always are asking why did he lend her his new car?
Yeah, it's weird, but I guess if...
when she's going to... Like, she's just bought alcohol, and then it's like, yeah, you can take my car. But,
True.
You know, he probably just trusted her.
Yeah, and, like, apparently how the story goes, her car wasn't really that reliable.
Yeah.
So maybe he just felt better, you know,
Yeah.
they're close, you know.
Take my car.
Yeah, he could sleep easy knowing that she had a reliable car at least.
Yeah, that's true.
According to Kate, her and Maura arrive at their friend Sarah's dorm at around 11 p.m. Her friends at the party claim they don't remember who Maura was talking to, and some even describe the so-called party as a small get-together in Maura's friend's dorm room, not a crazy party. It is possible that Sarah had friends that Maura and Kate had never met, or people were drinking and hanging out and they didn't take much notice. Then, years later, they couldn't remember that night.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, if you asked me to remember who was at a party from
there's
years
no way
ago,
you're going to remember everyone.
Because you kind of just, like, with your friends...
Especially if you've all been drinking.
Yeah, unless they're involved in something weird.
Yeah, some
and
kind
they're just
of event that you'd remember.
Not saying, but otherwise, I think, I think that's totally normal.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's totally possible that Sarah had people that she knew, but Maura and Kate didn't know.
Yeah, especially in university, like there's so many different like friend circles, kind of people that you know from different places.
Yeah. So now we'll go into Sunday, February 8th, the early hours. Kate says they leave Sarah's dorm around 2:30 a.m. on Sunday morning because Maura said she had to go and return her dad's car, which some people say is weird because, well, couldn't you just wait until the morning?
Yeah, especially if she was drinking.
Yeah. Some people say she left alone, and others say she left with a guy, but no one knows who this supposed guy was.
Right.
Then at 3:33 a.m., the police received a call about an accident. Just note that it didn't take an hour to get back to the motel, so there is some time unaccounted for there between them leaving Sarah's dorm at 2:30 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. when the police received the call. And I'm pretty sure that, like, Kate would have just gone back to her dorm. And so they must have parted ways.
Yeah.
And then maybe she was... I don't know. Maybe she was waiting... Maybe she was nervous about calling the police or...
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Not sure what...
Yeah, I guess she freaked out once the accident first happened and, like, I guess straight away you don't call the police.
You take a bit of time.
Have a look, process
have a look at your
what's
car.
happened.
Yeah. So as she was driving back to the motel, she went off the road, hitting a set of guardrails. The damage was so bad it was going to cost $10,000 to fix it. And Maura was obviously upset and felt really, really bad.
Yeah.
Someone called AAA and the tow truck left the scene with Maura at 4:29 a.m. The tow truck dropped her off at Fred's motel at 4:45 a.m. Apparently she went into the lobby and fell asleep on the couch, but it's a bit hazy here. It's not exactly known how, but apparently the manager called the room to tell Fred that Maura was there and then let her into the room. But there are some accounts where Fred said, I didn't know she was there until I woke up the next morning.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, well, how did she get into his room? Because at 5:38 a.m. Sunday morning, from Fred's phone, it seems that Maura calls Billy, who is in Oklahoma. And also, just take a note, I have seen differing times for this call, but nonetheless, she somehow got into Fred's room that morning and got his phone. I think she maybe left her phone with her back at the dorm or in the car or something like that.
Could have been a flat battery. Even.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fine. Then at 5:49 a.m., Billy calls Fred's phone back. Apparently, Billy later tells his mum about this conversation and that they spoke about the car accident, and he calmed her down, and he says he'll call her back later that day. And I think that's totally fair. Like, if I got into an accident, I would be calling you and telling you about it. And I believe there was a small time difference in Oklahoma, so it is possible that he was up early, like getting ready for school or whatever.
Yeah, no, you're definitely in shock after something like that happens and try and process it, and like you'd be a bit worried, especially like how you're going to pay for it, all this kind of different stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Later on, Maura was obviously still upset, but Fred reassured her it was okay and it would be covered by insurance. Fred takes Maura back to her dorm room around lunchtime, which is the last time he ever saw her. While his car is getting fixed, Fred drives home in a rental car. There were no calls until 8:36 p.m. when she checked her voicemail. Then at 11:26 p.m, Maura calls her dad and they speak on the phone for the last time about the car and insurance for the car. He tells her insurance will cover the damage and it'll get fixed. And he also tells her she'll have to get some accident forms and fill them out and to call him the next night. It is later confirmed that she did at some point go and pick up these forms because they were found in her car later on.
Okay.
And again, I think it's pretty normal. Like, she's probably she's had a rough night. She probably sleeps all day, and then, there's phone activity at 8:36 p.m. So she's probably just sleeping in a dorm room or chilling out.
Well, yeah, she was up like very early.
Yeah, all night, really.
Exactly. So you'd definitely be wanting to sleep it off, and you probably wouldn't want to get up and do anything after, you'd be feeling bad. Probably just want to stay in bed and not do anything.
Yeah. And I think it's good of her dad to be, reassuring about the accident, especially since that's the last time that he speaks to her. And
yeah, exactly.
It's good that he was like, it's fine, insurance is covering it.
Yeah, it might have been a different story if he didn't have insurance.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's good that he had insurance, and so he wasn't too worried about it, and reassured her. Now on to Monday, February 9th, the day she went missing. Police found on Maura's computer that she had been looking up rental properties in the White Mountains region of New Hampshire. She finished up on her computer around 4 a.m, still on Monday the 9th. Then, later that afternoon, she continued her search and looked up directions from Amherst, Massachusetts, to the Burlington, Vermont area. Her friend later said it was strange, especially since classes had just started back. Maura's in her dorm room, probably catching up on sleep after Sunday because there's not much activity. At some point, she submitted her nursing homework electronically and reportedly sent an email to her professors and work saying there had been a death in the family and that she would have to leave campus for the week, although there was no death in the family. Some people debate that it may have said family emergency, not death, but police have confirmed that it said death. Her friends and family do say this behaviour was out of the ordinary. Maybe she just needed to get away, and that's why she did it.
Yeah, so her family and friends say that, like, she definitely wasn't a liar.
Yeah. And
stuff like that, but I don't think it's that crazy to think that she just wanted to get away. But, when you want to have, like, a day off work, you don't say, I just want to have a day off. Like, you make up an excuse, usually.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I kind of see it as.
This seemed like that's a pretty extreme excuse, though. To go as far as death, like, you could have just said,
Yeah,
my
that's true.
grandfather's very sick. I want to spend the week with him or something like that.
That's true. Maybe it's just like, I
But
guess, an
I don't
easy
know.
thing to say, and then people
Yeah.
won't question it. They'll be
Yeah,
like,
it's
okay,
definitely, yeah.
no worries.
No one really likes to delve into that kind of stuff, so
Yeah.
they would have left her alone. But anyway, at 12:55 p.m., she calls the owner of a condo in the North Conway, Bartlett, New Hampshire area seeking information about renting a condo. The call lasted for 3 minutes and no condo was rented. Unfortunately, police never spoke to this woman that Maura spoke to on the phone. By the time anyone asked her about it, she couldn't remember anything because the call was so short. Note that her family took holidays in the Bartlett and White Mountains area regularly ever since Maura was a child. Fred says this town is familiar to Maura and she knew the area well. Plus, they had hiked various mountains there multiple times. Around 1 to 1:30 p.m., Maura emails Billy. The email said she loved him and sorry she didn't return his earlier messages, as she didn't feel like talking. Maura calls her UMass voicemail twice. Then, at around 2:05 p.m., she makes a call to a reservations phone line for hotels in the Stowe and Vermont area. The line was out of order when she called, so she could listen to reservations but couldn't actually make a booking. About 13 minutes after that phone call, she calls Billy, but gets his voicemail. She leaves a message saying sorry, she missed him, and that she would call him back. Apparently, it went to voicemail because Billy was on the phone to Maura's friend Kate. Then, Billy tries to call Maura back multiple times, but his calls go unanswered.
A lot of people think that's weird. Like, she was trying to call Billy, but why was Billy on the phone to Kate? Some people think that's a bit of an important moment there in the timeline. Like, what were they discussing? Why was he talking to her friend Kate?
Well, maybe
they were friends.
Maybe because he knew about the crash with Maura. Yeah, he just wanted someone that could keep an eye on her.
Yeah,
and see how she was doing.
That's true. I never found in my research that they knew each other because remember, she's transferred from West Point to UMass. Then Kate's a friend from UMass, I think. But I mean, they could have definitely met each other.
Yeah, and you kind of start to learn who their friends are. Yeah,
that's true.
Because they'd be talking about them on their phone calls and everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's just something.
So yeah, maybe it was just
make a note of that.
Yeah, to just see how Maura was, how she was acting that night.
Yeah,
with the car crash and everything. But at some point, she packed a bag that is said to contain toiletries, makeup, workout clothes, school books, birth control pills, and several days of clothing. So it seemed like she was going on a trip somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And also, some people found that she had packed boxes in her dorm room, but some people say, was she packing up her dorm room? Other people say, did she just not unpack them?
Right. Well, yeah, you're not
sure about that.
Because there's also those phone calls where she's looking into renting a condo.
Yeah.
So she might have been wanting to be ready to move. At 3:40 p.m, Maura stopped at an off-campus ATM and withdrew $280, which almost emptied that account. From the camera, it appeared that she was alone. After that, she went to a local liquor store and purchased around $40 worth of alcohol. She bought a bottle of Kahlua, vodka, Baileys, and a box of red wine. It's pretty good for $40.
Yeah.
We know this because there is a receipt apparently later found in her car by police. These ingredients are known to make a White Russian, a drink that Maura often drank. Around 4:30 p.m, police think Maura left the Amherst, Hadley, Massachusetts area and drove her car north towards New Hampshire. At 4:37 p.m, at an unknown location, phone records show she calls to check her voicemail. This was the last known call made from her phone. She didn't tell anyone that she was planning on leaving or why.
Around 7:25 p.m, Maura crashes her car on Route 112 and is never seen again. Next episode, we're going to explore the timeline starting from the accident, and then we'll go all the way to the theories about what people think happened to Maura and maybe what we think happened.
Yeah, so we're going to delve into kind of the end part of this story. We've gone through all the timeline, we've given you most of the information. Mm-hmm. Now we get to go through the juicy stuff.
We hope you enjoyed, and
Yeah, if you did enjoy it, just look out for part 2.
bye, guys.